Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from the relationship advice subreddit. It started in 2023, but we have a final update in June 2026. It's titled, My ex-best friend, 25 female of 10 years, wants me, 25 female, to forgive her for sleeping with my exes. So, my ex-best friend, let's call her Andrea, was my best friend for 10 years. We're at a party, I brought my fiancé of a year with us. We're about 5 to 8 drinks in and everyone's feeling it. I went off to go talk to another friend while Andrea and my fiancé sit at a table on the outside deck. I go back about 15 minutes later and my fiancé tells me he needs to talk to me discreetly after she gets up and walks away. He tells me she asked him why her? Why does everyone always go for her? Why does no one go for me? And then proceeds to say, would you ever date me? Now, in the moment, I don't know if I fully believed him. About a year later, I've been broken up with my fiancé for about 3 months. I start hooking up with another guy I had known. We will call him Colby. One night I threw a party and it got kinda crazy. I was not feeling well and was in the bathroom. While I was in the bathroom, Andrea was all over Colby. Someone had told me later that night, and as I was on Snapchat posting stuff, she takes a pic with Colby and is basically on top of him and sticking her tongue out. She sends it to me while I'm on my phone. I didn't really think much of it. 2 weeks later, a mutual friend says Andrea is sleeping with Colby and that she slept with another ex of mine after we had broken up. I messaged her and asked her, are you sleeping with Colby and did you sleep with other ex? She plays it off like she has no idea what they are talking about and says she would never do that to me. I asked, are you sure? If you like him, just be honest so I can stop wasting my time on Colby. Then starts gaslighting me and asking why I would believe mutual friend. I didn't push it after that because I didn't want to start a fight with her. One night I looked at Snap Map and it showed Colby and Andrea in the same location, and I knew in my gut. I expected it from a guy, but not from my best friend. I asked again. She blew up and finally admitted it after gaslighting me for 3 weeks, then tried to make me out to be the bad guy, saying you always make everything about you, and you guys weren't even in a real relationship, and a bunch of other crappy things. I get into a relationship with Tyler. A few weeks later I stupidly forgive her. 7 months later, me and Tyler take a break. We all attended a party together and I see her flirting with him and flashbacks of Colby came back, and long story short, we fought again and didn't talk for a very long time. A year later I have moved out of state and she's in a relationship with Tyler and is pregnant with his child. I now know all of my feelings were right. I mean, her last 3 relationships were all of my exes. Another year later, she says she misses me and is sad I moved out of state and doesn't apologize for anything. I told her I don't hold grudges, but I don't think I can fully ever be friends with her again. Opie adds a small update within the same post and says, I've blocked and removed her on everything. Should have been done sooner, but what's done is done, and I've learned my lesson. It's the pattern behind this that's really worrying. 3 relationships. And I mean, Opie literally gave her multiple opportunities to just be honest, and instead, like Opie said, she gaslights and denies it and makes Opie feel crazy. And I think the blocking her was just years overdue because this person is just showing you exactly who they are, and why would you want someone like that in your life, right? But a commenter says, man, she's tired of Tyler and wondering if you found something new for her. You're smart to walk away, man. Fuck that. Opie says, I'm too nice and oblivious, but not anymore, don't worry. After many commenters are saying the same thing, I'm glad to know I'm not a bad person. I think we're all in agreement here. Commenter replies saying, that oblivious part is obvious. Your damn fiancé told you what she was doing and you ignored him. She showed you what she was doing and you ignored her too. How many friends told you what she was doing, ignored them too, but now you're mad? I guess if you'd walked in on them, she'd have said he'd slipped. There's trusting and then there's willfully blind. You still act like you could trust her again at some point after she stabbed you in the gooch at least 3 times. Opie says, okay, you obviously don't read very well. Yes, I didn't take action on something my boyfriend said because we were all drunk and I had no proof. The second person told me and I did act on it. I asked her about it. I can't do anything without knowing the truth. I'm not just going to jump to conclusions, and I already cut her off and everyone's acting like I'm talking to her. I was just trying to make sure I was doing the right thing by telling her no, and you'll just eat it up and read way too much into it. No one said I was going to trust her again." Commenter says, "She hasn't apologized for anything, so it does not read like she wants forgiveness from you." Opie says, "Very true. That fact that she hasn't apologized shows she doesn't feel bad like she should." A commenter says, "How did she become your best friend? It seems that you know each other because you meet often, which may or may not be a coincidence, but otherwise, she wants a certain reaction. Maybe she wants you to envy her as she envies you, or just to hurt you. She doesn't care about your friendship, only about appearances. Life is too short to waste your time on the wrong people." Opie says, "We met in middle school and became friends through a mutual friend. We were best friends ever since, and we lived together through the first incident." So, after 2 years and 10 months later, Opie comes in and says, "Hey everyone, I randomly came back across this post after not thinking about it for a long time and figured I'd give a real update since a lot has changed. It's been over 3 years since everything went down with Andrea, Colby, and Tyler. After I made my original update, I fully stuck to cutting Andrea off and I've kept her block/no contact ever since. That was honestly one of the best decisions I made for my peace of mind." So the actual update on the situation. Andrea ended up staying with Tyler for about a year, and as I told you all before, had a baby together. That relationship eventually fell apart after Tyler cheated on her, and shortly after their breakup, he even tried reaching out to me again, which I obviously didn't entertain. After all of that, Andrea is now with Colby. Yes, the same Colby from my original post. So basically, she ended up in long-term situations with both of the main people involved in all of this. As for me, I stayed in the relationship I moved out of state for. We've now been together for years and things are amazing. We're building a life together, both settled into careers, and we've been talking seriously about the future, trying for a baby. Yay. Looking back, I don't really feel anger about it anymore. It was painful at the time, but it also made it very clear who I could and couldn't trust. Mostly I just feel far removed from who I was when I wrote the original post. I was constantly trying to make sense of people who weren't treating me with basic respect, and I don't live in that space anymore. What do you think? Did I make the right decision all those years ago? I think I did. If anyone remembers this from years ago, thanks for reading back then and giving advice, and thanks again now." A commenter says, "I'm confused about your timeline in the original post. Was Tyler the fiance that you initially took a 3-month break?" Opie says, "No, different guy. They never dated, he was just my fiance she tried hitting on at a party." Another commenter says, "Don't try for a baby, try for a marriage first." Opie says, "We're getting married beginning of next year." Another commenter says, "Next time you see them, buy that guy a drink and say thanks for him doing you an enormous favor of showing you who she really is before you waste another second on her. That guy saved your life, man. You owe him big time for taking that cheating liar off your hands." And one more says, "If it makes you feel better, she'll come back when it implodes, and yes, it will implode. Don't ever talk to her again." I think the majority in the comments on this was just glad that Opie has moved on and sounds like they're a bit of a different person now. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Our next story comes from the Legal Advice subreddit. It's a bit of HOA drama. And it says, "My dad's house is serviced by a community well that is now owned by an HOA. They want him to join the HOA to keep using the well. Does he have any defense? My father owns a house in an area with a community well. Back in the 90s when he bought the land and had the house built, the neighborhood was all supposed to be developed. My father knew someone involved in the plans and bought a plot as soon as the opportunity came up. Meanwhile, the well was put in by a well service, and the way the contract worked, the well service owns the well and lines. However, there was some drama with the development company, and the rest of the development didn't end up happening at that time. They eventually sold it all to a different development company, and that new company developed the block as an HOA neighborhood. They asked my dad to join, he said no. It was never really an issue again until recently. After the area was developed, the well company has always managed the wells and bills people directly. They pay a very small amount that covers the cost of maintaining the well as well. Extremely cheap. Apparently, the well servicer recently wanted to get out of the well business, but not a lot of well services want to own the well. They want to service them on contract, but don't want to be the actual owners these days. So they sold the well back to the HOA, who now owns it, and hired a new company to do the maintenance. Now, here is a failure on our part. My dad received notice in the mail about this from the HOA. However, they have sent him a mail in the past that was not relevant to him, so he thought the recent mailings were crap and ignored it. So apparently there were 3 community meetings held about this that he did not attend. They've left him voicemails, but he admits that he listened to the first 2 seconds, thought it was political spam, and ignored it. Now, they have finally gotten in touch with him. Since the well is owned by the HOA, they're treating it as an HOA benefit, and they can't give those benefits to non-members. They told him they understand that he doesn't want to be held to the HOA covenants, just to keep getting the same water he always has. But since the HOA is taking on the burden of the well, they need to be fair to members and not have someone who isn't paying for HOA benefits receiving them. It sounded exactly as slimy as it reads. They're offering him a special allowance to join the HOA, but not to be held to covenants such as house colors and fences and all those other things, but so he can use the well. I don't know if they're being slimy and putting a fast one without a legal basis, or if my father should be legitimately concerned. Should he get a lawyer? A commenter says, Iowa in general has a shallow water table. It'd probably be more cost effective for him to take out a home equity loan and put in a private well than join the HOA. Opie says, I'm the OP but my thread was locked and I can't respond. He's unlikely to be able to get a private well for his property because of the location of his septic system. Apparently there are rules about how close the septic can be to the well system, and because he has a small lot. They want $800 a month for the HOA membership. So trust me, we would prefer to drill a well. It's just not likely to be an option unless the health department will make an exception to the rule. The well guy laughed at that. Commenter says, I hate the comparison to a bill. I have no obligations to the HOA. Why would I open mail from them? It might be legal, but it's unjust to take someone's water usage away like this. OP replies saying, I'm the OP, but my original thread was locked and I can't comment on it, so I'll explain here. My father has received mail from the HOA for years. They send out things several times per month, something before their monthly meeting with meeting topics, something after the meeting with the result of the meeting and what was discussed, a monthly calendar. He asked them to take him off of their mailing list, but they said they continue to include him as a favor so he can be aware of things going on their street. He got tired of dealing with them and just started throwing it away with the rest of the junk mail. They've also called him over the years, at least once every couple of months, to politely ask him to do this or that. Like, we just had a hailstorm and a lot of houses had damage. They called him saying, we negotiated 10% off roofing with this company if we can get X houses to commit. Sign up now for them to replace your roof. Pretty sure they just didn't have enough houses, so they included my dad as a favor, but really to try and get their quota to get a discount. They call him to tell him they changed snow removal services, so if he sees trucks saying such and such on the side, don't worry. I've gone through all his junk mail and voicemail for the past couple of months to find out exactly what he ignored, and there are 7 letters from the HOA between mid-March and now from the HOA that aren't related to the water. And he has received 3 calls from them not related to it as well, so it's kinda a boy cried wolf situation in reverse. He got so used to contact from them being crap that he started ignoring it. Now if the old well company had contacted him and said, we're informing you we are selling, that he would have read. Look, I'm not very knowledgeable on HOAs and all that kind of stuff because, apart from what we read on here, of course, on Reddit, but this whole thing sounds incredibly shady to me. The part that made my eyebrows shoot up to the ceiling was the $800 a month HOA fee. Is that actually normal? You have to educate me there. Because from the outside, that seems absolutely insane. Especially when the issue is basically pay us nearly 10 grand a year or you're going to lose access to a water source you've been using for decades. And again, I'm not knowledgeable on it all, but my first instinct was to immediately call a lawyer. But it was a month later that OP came back in and updated the post and says, hi all, I wanted to update on the outcome of this. Sorry, it's honestly a pretty boring outcome. No cool courtroom outbursts at all, sadly. It turns out there were just some liars and there were never actually a legal problem in the first place. My dad was just a victim of a HOA trying to scam him. Here is my original thread and shared the link to it. The summary is that my dad lives in a house served by a community well that is next to an HOA, but my dad is not a part of it. The HOA told my dad that they now own the well and that he needs to join the HOA and effectively pay them $800 a month to use the well service plus the actual water bill on top of it. He did end up getting a lawyer to see him ASAP. The lawyer told him the first thing he needed to do was get records of ownership for the well and try to get his hands on the details of the sale. However, after a couple of days, he said he was having issues getting up-to-date records and was waiting to hear back from a contact at the county because he wasn't sure if COVID had delayed records filing or what. Then my dad got a surprise. A water bill from the original well servicer, right on time for their 3 times a year billing. Obviously, that's odd considering he's been told that they don't own the well anymore, and he called them up. It turns out he was just lied to. The well servicer was never looking to get out of the well business permanently, but was rather looking to contract out the day-to-day testing services of the well to another company because many of the wells they service now require more testing than they did years ago, and they no longer have the manpower to do all of it themselves. But they were not selling the well, simply hiring an independent contractor to drive around and do well stuff all day. During that time, the HOA had asked them to attend an HOA meeting so residents could ask questions about things like filtration, and they mentioned it at the meeting to let residents know that they'd be seeing a new person going around and doing testing. They wanted to let them know because the testing involves taking samples from individual properties, and they didn't want anyone to be freaked out. So when the HOA told my dad they now owned the well, they were just plain lying. When the HOA said they had a new company doing the servicing, they were half truthful. The new company was doing the testing, but the HOA had nothing to do with it. The contract is between the original well servicer and the individual guy they're contracting out to. The original well servicer also told my dad that the HOA had reached out and informed them around the same time they were contacting my dad, and they were taking over handling billing, and that well servicer should bill the HOA for all the properties, and the HOA would then include it in the HOA dues billing to streamline things for residents, claiming it would make their residents' lives easier if they only had to keep track of one bill and not multiple. However, the HOA actually has no authority to just declare this, and the well servicer just outright told them no. They will continue to bill individual properties. The timing of this coincides with them. They started contacting my dad. They were just trying to pull a fast one on everyone. The well servicer is confident that the HOA has zero legal authority over the well situation and says they respected the HOA in an organizational capacity, like calling meetings so residents could ask questions, and were professionally annoyed with them trying to insert themselves into billing, but they were not aware that the HOA was claiming to own the well. They told my dad that he should not give the HOA any money for water servicing or accept water servicing related information from them in any way. So going back around to the lawyer, my dad got an appointment with the lawyer to tell them all this, and the lawyer had his own news that matched up entirely. The reason he wasn't finding up-to-date court records following the supposed sale was because he doesn't believe a legitimate sale has happened. He thinks my dad was just getting scammed. So all in all, my dad will continue to use the well as he always has. He's pretty angry that he had to spend a bunch of money to find out what he already knew. The HOA is made of dicks, but we are definitely breathing a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, as for the HOA, my father's lawyer suggested that there may be room for legal action against the HOA reps for what was basically fraudulent claims. My father doesn't want to spend the money pursuing it at this time, but the well servicer did ask for copies of everything he received from the HOA because they want to review it with their own lawyer. Thanks to everyone who gave advice. We're grateful for it, and also for the fact that we didn't have to use most of it. Ooh, I would have loved an update with hopefully the well servicer suing the crap out of that HOA. What a scummy move that they was trying there. And I always feel like I have to add a little disclaimer at the end of HOA stories. I know that we always cover the worst of the worst. It's just the way that it is, right? We're never covering the good stories that happen in HOAs. Because I always get like a couple of comments or occasionally an email about how they got a good HOA and all that sort of stuff. So just throwing that out there as well. I don't know. I'm just reading these stories. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's have another story. Now our next story comes from the Am I Overreacting subreddit from Disastrous Froyo530, who says, "Am I overreacting for thinking my friend is faking their death?" I hadn't heard from my friend in about a month, so I sent over a text just checking in. I got a response in the middle of the night from their family member saying that they had passed the day after I last spoke with them. I of course was torn to bits. I cried and kept reading the message over and over, just in denial of it all. However, as I kept reading, I realized that the family member texts exactly the same way they did. I got the text around the same time they usually text me, as they work overnights. Then I realized that I had texted them from their work phone that no one should have access to due to the security of their job. Like if they did pass, the phone should have been turned in by now. I looked for obituaries, nothing at all. Looked for death certificates, nothing again. I sent over my condolences and asked if there was a service for them. They told me they did and where my friend was buried. Once again, normal time for them to text due to their schedule. Not for normal people with a regular 9 to 5. I called another friend to vent because I was just in a bad frame of mind. I had recently lost a family member earlier this year, so things were just piling up. He called a cemetery for me, and they said they had no one under their name that was buried there. I'm crushed. We didn't have any issues the last time we spoke, and if they didn't want to be friends anymore, I would have much appreciated that instead of thinking this. I feel like I overreacted, and perhaps I'm just in a deep state of denial. But deep down, I just feel like they're not dead. Am I overreacting? No, I don't blame OP at all. The moment this family member starts texting in the same style at the same times from a work phone that supposedly nobody should have access to, I'd be raising my eyebrows to it as well. And the fact that the cemetery don't have records of the burial is what really pushes it over the line, isn't it? Because now you're talking about concrete facts that don't add up. And it just leaves me thinking, what is the reason? If we're talking about faking death here, what is the point of doing that? Ghosting would have been easier. Blocking them would have been easier. Just saying I don't want to be friends anymore would have been easier. Faking your own death is such like a nuclear option. It's just wild. The first commenter says to OP, phone their workplace and ask to speak to them. The response should give you an idea of whether they are dead or alive. Commenter says, if it's true, my condolences. It's tough losing a friend. If it's not true and they're faking, spread it all around that they've died. Call the job, school, church, all the mutual friends and host a candlelight in honor of them and post invites and photos on all social media. And when the truth comes out, tell them, fuck you. No one needs that kind of friend. Another commenter says, trust your gut. My ex-husband lied about having terminal cancer and after a miraculous recovery, lied about it again. My friend sent me a screenshot of text to her where I said, what the fuck is wrong with me? I don't believe him. She actually convinced me it was true because nobody would be sick enough to do that to their wife and children, except he did. He never had cancer, and the second time he disappeared leaving a note saying he was going to die alone. My gut knew. Trust your gut. Another commenter says, this takes ghosting to a whole new level. Another one says, this happened to me. What the fuck? How's this happened to so many people? It was a very close friend. Left behind a grieving widow that was in on it. Staged the services back in Spain last minute so no one that knew him in the US could go. Turned out he was in the jewelry business and made some bad deals with some bad people and he panicked and faked his death. People were sending all this love, support, taking care of his widow, sending her money. And she continued that spiel for a couple of years before stopping replying to people and going dark online. And I find Facebook suggested their alternate names to me when they had been posting and living their life happily for those past 2 years evidently. Shit was so fucked up. So first OP edits the post and says, I want to clear up some common questions. Yes, they were an online friend, but we met once and called a few times so I know at least they are real. We've known each other for about a year now. We used to talk every day, but due to stress and personal issues, they dwindled every so often. No, I don't know any of their family members personally, but I know of a specific few, only a couple by name. I will see about calling their work, but I don't believe it's a job that I can call up and ask them. I will if I can. So it was 13 days after this that OP did come in with an update and said, hi all, I'm updating on my account as I don't feel as though my update is substantial enough for the subreddit. A lot of people have asked and continue to ask, so here it is. They're alive, woohoo, I guess. I did some digging and I see they were still posting on another social media platform during the time they were supposed to be dead. They changed their profile and avatar on here multiple times after I last spoke with their family member, aka them. I haven't reached out and neither have they, so I may never know the true reason as to why they decided to jump ship. At this point, I couldn't care less. There were some common questions and comments on my post, but I understand and wanted to clear some things up on mobile, so sorry if it looks weird. What did I do to make them do this? Am I batshit insane? Why didn't I take the hint beforehand, etc.? And says, I didn't do anything that would warrant this. The last time we spoke, they wanted to speak with me. I had already turned in for the night. The following day they told me their plans for that week and then I got no reply afterwards. It was normal. Sometimes they'd disappear, but even after they always seemed happy to talk to me. Last time they stopped talking to me for a few months was due to a mental breakdown, so maybe that's what happened. I've only known them for a year, so why do I care so much? And then says, I don't think people understand the impact that a sudden death can have, especially when you're not expecting it. I'd probably be sad if I heard someone I met and talked to briefly passed. My therapist said that my reaction was normal, so I'm going to take her word for it. I don't think I did anything wrong. That's such a bizarre question, I find. You've only known him for a year, so why do you care so much? Well, because you assume that you know them and that you care about them. You're not going to look at this text and say, oh, this person's just died, and go, oh, fuck, I'm only knew him for a year. Sod it. Come on now. So weird. Why did they do this? Opie says, I don't know. Like I said above, I think it's just mental illness and issues they may not want to tackle head on, so they let it fester. They weren't a good communicator in the past when they had a previous breakdown. Were they lying about their life? I know for a fact that they were not lying about their job, as I've seen them in their uniform both in and out of work. However, I'm not sure the full extent of their life. I'll admit that, and this situation has made me question it. I'm not contacting them again, as I don't wish to be friends with someone who cannot communicate their feelings in a functional way, especially a grown adult. If they contact me, I want a full explanation and apology, but even then, I won't allow them back in my life. I also wanted to acknowledge everyone who commented and sent me kind messages. You have no idea how much I appreciate you, as I was spiraling a bit while making the post. I feel a lot better now, and I'm working through life itself. Anyways, had tacos and beer for dinner and wanted to update. I hope everyone had a great weekend and enjoy the rest of your week. I'll be deleting this account soon as I'm over it, but I'll answer any questions anyone has in the meantime. Thanks. On the question about were they lying about their life, and Opie says they know for a fact they weren't lying about their job as they seen them in uniform in and out of work. You know, they just lied about them actually dying, so I would take that with a pinch of salt if I was you. It brought up a story that one of my brothers told me about someone that they knew, and this person disappeared from work one day. I don't think they was very reliable anyway, but they just vanished from work, and it eventually all came out online that they were living some kind of like alternate reality. They were going to like army events dressed up in army uniform. Is it Stolen Valor, I think it's called? And they were absolutely called out online, filmed, and it just totally made them go viral and messed with their life completely. So they just had to basically disappear, and then he was never seen again. And there was a whole bunch of other stuff that he was doing. I basically can't go into too much detail of because it just give it away. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. Truly, it's absolutely amazing. And I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.